Over 12 years ago now, Bethesda released the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. But for this episode, I want to set out to completely max out my character. I want to reach level 100 in every skill, and then on top of that, unlock every single perk in those trees. But before we got to grinding, I of course had to create a character, which a Breton would probably be best for their magic resistance, but they're short. So I went with a Nord instead. But now that was done, all I had to do now was make my way through the initial starting area. And the only real thing of note here was I went with Ralof, because I will be doing a Stormcloak run for this. So while we make our way through here, I want to take this time to talk about a few things relating to the playthrough. Now, first of all, the difficulty is going to be set to Legendary and will not change throughout the entire thing. Some skills I would level up faster by turning it down, but I decided to not do so. And second of all, mods. As you can see, the game is modded, but what I went with here was something that still feels like vanilla. There's no gameplay mods or patches or anything. It's just purely aesthetic changes, which I do think I did a fairly good job of it. So I will be leaving a mod list down in the description, so you can see what I have if you are interested. Nearing the end of the dungeon, we come across the Bear Cave, and here is the perfect opportunity to level up our first skill, Sneak. Now, the way we're going to do this is get out a dagger, sneak behind Ralof, and just stab him in the back, over and over and over. Now, this is the best time to do this throughout the entire game. There is also the Greybeards you can do this on, but if they detect you, they will attack. But as soon as this is the tutorial level, Ralof isn't going to do that. So it is that simple, and after enough time had passed, I had reached level 100. But I was not going to level up just yet. I was going to hold on to it for a little bit longer until we got to Riverwood. But just before that, I made my way out of Helgen and ran down to the Guardian Stones, where I activated the Thief Stone, giving me 20% extra experience for all Thief skills, which I will go into why in a bit. But after I'd arrived in Riverwood, I went over to Sven, who wanted me to deliver an incriminating letter to Camilla and say the letter was actually from Faendal. But instead of doing that, I told her what Sven was up to, and then went over to Faendal, opening him up as a follower. Now, Faendal is actually an archery trainer, so what I can do here is give him some gold, and in exchange he's going to level up my archery skill. And the funny thing about this is that because he's a follower, I can just take out all the gold from his inventory and then keep doing it for a total of 5 times. But I had saved a level up from the cave, so I did that now, which opened up another 5 levels I could train. So I'm going to bring Faendal along with me until I get to archery level 50, where he caps out. So, after speaking to Gerda about Helgen and taking all of her possessions, I made my way over to Whiterun, fighting a giant along the way. But I was not heading to the city, I was more interested in the carriage outside. And talking to the carriage driver, I gave him a small sum of gold to take me to Dawnster. And here in Dawnster, we are going to do a whole load of exploits. First of which is the Dawnstar Loop. What this entails is going over to this hidden chest next to Ironbreaker Mine. We looted the entire thing, then went over to the White Hall, where in here we could access the enchanting table and then disenchant all the gear we got, unlocking its enchantment. But before we continued with the rest, I noticed I was getting dangerously close to level 20. Now what happens at level 20 is the Resist Poison enchantment is completely removed from the leveled lists. So if I was ever going to get it, it was going to be now. So I went over to Solitude in the Radiant Raiment, buying a necklace that had the enchantment from the shopkeeper. But getting back to Dawnster, made our way all the way up to the entrance where we could speak with the actual Khajiit trader and then sell everything we got from the chest. But traders only have a limited supply of gold, so to counteract this, we quick save, smack them in the face, and then reload, which resets the entire inventory, including that chest next to the mine. So what we did here is just went back and forth looting the chest, disenchanting the gear, and then selling everything to the merchant. And I did this until I found a specific enchantment, Fortify Alchemy. Now this is going to be the next skill we level up, and will set us on course to level up every single other one with ease. So first thing I did was make some gear and then enchant all 4 pieces with Fortify Alchemy. Then fast travelling back to Whiterun to start collecting all of the ingredients I was going to need for the potions. There was 3 potions I needed to craft. So first was Fortify Health, which I needed Creep Cluster, Giant's Toe and Wheat. Fortify Enchanting, which required Blue Butterfly Wings and Snowberries. And finally a Fortify Restoration Potion, which needed Abyssian Longfins, Cyrodiilic Spadetails and Salt Piles. So I'd already collected a lot of Snowberries in Dawnster, so that was out of the way. Next I went for Blue Butterfly Wings. These can be found along the southwest road of Whiterun, as well as the farms that can be found here, which also hold a lot of wheat that we can harvest, and some barrels, which we can find salt piles in. Now you can get the next ingredients for free all around the world, but it is easier just to buy them all. So I finally went into the city and started purchasing all of the ingredients from Arcadia, using the same method as I did with the Khajiit merchant. Just buying everything I need and then reloading her inventory, and repeating that process until I was completely depleted of gold. Although there was one ingredient I didn't get much of, and that was Creep Cluster, so I did have to go out and gather some of that. Although it is not difficult to find, I just took a carriage up to Windhelm, and then a little bit further past Kyne's Grove. You can find a ton of it along the road. I now had everything I needed to start leveling my alchemy, so I went back to Dawnster, over to the Alchemy station in the Mortar and Pestle. Now, this is where the Thief Stone comes into play. I needed to reach Alchemy level 30, and Alchemy being a thief skill, it's going to make the process a bit faster. And I did this by crafting a bunch of Fortify Health potions. So once I'd reached the required level, I put a few points into the skill tree, 2 points into Alchemist, 1 in Physician and another in Benefactor. And with that done, we can move on to the Restoration loop. So how this works is first, I equipped my alchemy gear, then crafted the Restoration potion. Then after drinking the potion, I took my armour off and then put it back on, which you just keep repeating those steps over and over, because for some reason, I don't really know why, but when you do this, the effectiveness of your alchemy gear incrementally goes upwards. So I just kept doing this until I got to the point where my restoration potions were looking like this, and then finally crafted up a couple of those Fortify Enchanting potions. Plus, I had also reached level 100 in Alchemy. And also, what we had to do to reach level 100 in Speech was sell one of those super overpowered potions we just crafted. And by this point, we had also used up all of the training levels from Faendal. So after reaching level 50, I just decided to dismiss him. So next, I was going to use those enchanting potions to create some incredibly powerful gear. I intentionally made half of it light armor and the other half heavy armor, so that later on we could level up both skills at the same time. Regarding the enchantments, I got infinite health from the armor, infinite magicka from the helmet, and infinite carry weight from the boots. And finally, on the gauntlets, I put a super powerful smithing fortification, and then using these gauntlets to upgrade a piece of gear, instantly got my smithing to level 100. And I had also upgraded an iron dagger that I had, which will kill anything that I hit it with. And all of this stuff is only going to be used for the leveling portion of this series. At the end of the video, I am going to make a set of armor and weapons, but all of that stuff is going to be enchanted and upgraded without touching the restoration loop. But anyway, moving on to the next 2 skills I wanted to level up, and that was Illusion and Conjuration. So the spell we were going to use for Illusion is Muffle, and for Conjuration is Soul Trap. So thanks to our infinite magicka helmet, we can just cast these as much as we want. So I made my way over to Anice's cabin, casting the Muffle spell in both hands along the way. And once I got there, I just killed her, threw her on the bed, and began casting Soul Trap on her body. And I did this for about 30 to 40 minutes, and eventually I'd reached level 100 in Conjuration. And while still casting Muffle, I made my way over to the Guardian Stones and activated the Warrior Stone, and then went over to the Giant's camp outside of Whiterun. Because here I was going to level up 3 different skills: light armor, heavy armor, and block. And all I had to do for that was anger the giants and just sit there while they hit me. And this did take a while, especially the heavy armor, but after enough time had passed, I had reached level 100 in all 3 skills.
A new hand touches the beacon.
So after that, I went back to the city to buy some Daedra hearts to create a Daedric mace and a Daedric warhammer, because the next skills I was going to level up were one-handed and two-handed. And the reason I got these weapons was because I believe it scales off of base damage, and the Daedric blunt weapons are the highest I have access to right now, only getting topped by Dragonborn. Going down to the stables, I bought a horse, using the weapons on it over and over, and then waiting an hour every time the health got low. So again, this did take a bit, but after enough time, I had reached level 100 in both one-handed and two-handed. So, while the Warrior Stone was still active, I went back over to Dawnster and continued looping back and forth to get most of the remaining enchantments. The ones I didn't get are unique in their location, but all the non-unique ones I did get. But anyway, after that, I started crafting a bunch of gear, which I then began enchanting. Fairly tedious, but fortunately I did have a ton of soul gems from the looping I was doing before, so eventually I did max it out. And now that all the warrior skills were done, I wanted to work on the thief ones. So for that, I made my way over to Riften and punched a guard. After breaking out and getting rid of all the guards, I made my way over to Sibby Blackbriar. And the reason for this is that he isn't going to care if you pickpocket him. He won't get mad or put a bounty on you or anything. And even if he does catch you, you can repeatedly try again. So this is going to work out pretty well for us, because we can just keep pickpocketing his stuff, and then putting stuff on him, taking that away, putting it back, and actually pretty fast we made our way up to level 100 in pickpocket.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Now for the next couple of skills, I had to be initiated into the Thieves Guild, so I made my way over to Brynjolf to start the questline, where I had to steal Medesi's silver ring from his stool, then plant it on Branchet. And after successfully doing that, Brynjolf sent me down to the Ragged Flagon, so I made my way through the Ratway, picking up the Gloves of the Pugilist along the way, for that Fortify Unarmed enchantment, and then once again met up with Brynjolf, where he asked me to go collect some debts from a few people in Riften. First was the Argonian that ran the inn. Her husband gave me some information on her family, which I blackmailed her with. Second was Bercy. To get his money, I destroyed his own, which made him very upset. And then the last one was Helga, and as always, she just gave it up, although I did end up just stealing the unique Debella statue anyway. After I collected all 3 debts, I made my way back down to the Ragged Flagon, where Brynjolf took me into the cistern, introduced me to Mercer Frey, who then inducted me into the Thieves Guild.
Welcome to the Thieves Guild.
So after reactivating the Thief Stone, I went over to the training room and then started lockpicking the master chest that was in the corner, where I purposely failed, just burning through all of the lockpicks that I had from the Dawnstar loop. And this did get me to level 50, although this wasn't a great way of doing it. And the final levels that I got were from going around different cities and lockpicking all of the doors, eventually getting to level 100. Now the next couple of skills required 2 additional spells, and one of those was Telekinesis, which can only be found under Redwater Den in the jail cell. So after learning that, I went outside, and equipping my Infinite Magicka helmet, I used Telekinesis to pick something up, and while still holding it, I fast travelled back to the College of Winterhold, which instantly maxed out my alteration. And now that my alteration was leveled up, I went into the college and over to Tolfdir, where I had to do the initial starting quest for the college quest line, which opened him up as a merchant, where I could buy the Paralyze spell. So now that I got these 2 spells, I can do a trick with trainers. And the first I was going to do this on was the Master Destruction Trainer, which was Feralda in the college. So going over to her, I just did the training, spent all my money, then paralyzed her, and while she's doing the animation to get back up, I am able to pickpocket everything on her inventory, which is a 100% success rate. So the cool thing we can do here is if I legendary my alteration, I can go outside and then did the same thing, picked up an item, went to Whiterun, I then legendaried alteration again, and then did the same thing going back to the college, and then repeated what I did before, just paralyzing her, taking all the gold, and then doing the alteration trick back and forth until I'd reached level 90. After that, I wanted to do the exact same thing with the archery skill, and the master trainer for that was Niran in the Ragged Flagon Cistern that we got access to by joining the Thieves Guild earlier on. So again, training some levels, going back and forth with the alteration, paralyzing, taking the gold back, all the way up until, once again, level 90. But for both archery and destruction, we still have 10 more levels to go. So the first 5 of those, I was going to read some skill books. So first I did the archery. The first book I found was The Father of Nibian in Autumn Shade Clearing. The second was The Black Arrow in The Drunken Huntsman. Third was the marksmanship lesson in Jorvaskir inside of Aela's room. And then lastly was Veranicus and Bulor inside of the Markarth Treasury House. For destruction, the first book was a hypothetical treachery inside of the Aratina residence. Then I got the Art of War Magic from the Whitehall in Dawnstar, and also in Dawnstar was a response to Bearer's speech a little bit down through the Ironbreaker mine. There was a mystery of Telara inside of Burner's Oddments in Winterhold. And then lastly, I found Horror of Castle Zir in a unmarked burnt down house in the Rift. So for the remaining 5 levels of archery, I went over to Angie's camp, and speaking to Angie, she's going to give us some unique archery training where we have to hit a series of targets, and doing all of these can get you up to 6 levels, as well as the unique Angie's bow. And then for destruction, the last levels for this was a lot more difficult to get. What I did here was I went out into an open area and then summoned up a Frost Atronach, and then repeatedly just threw a bunch of fire spells at it, maxing out my destruction skill, which also, this was the second to last skill that I had to do. The final one was Restoration. But for the method I was using for this, we had to do a portion of the main quest line. So first of all, I went over to Bleakfall's Barrow, and then made my way through the dungeon. Of course, picking up the Golden Claw along the way. So getting to the end of it, I'd unlocked the first word of Unrelenting Force, and then picked up the Dragonstone from the boss. After that, I had returned to Whiterun, where I spoke to Jarl Bargroth for actually the first time, who then sent me over to Farengar, where I handed in the Dragonstone. After this, Irileth came down, yelling about a dragon at the Western Watchtower. So I got sent over there to investigate when a dragon came down from the sky, and thanks to that dagger that I had, this was not a very long battle at all. After it died, I absorbed its soul, which is when the Greybeards called out to me. After returning to Jarl Bargroth yet again, he rewarded me with Lydia, the housecarl, and then before heading off to Ivarstead, I purchased Breeze Home with all of its decorations. But anyway, after I got to Ivarstead, I went ahead and did Narfi's quest, because later on, when I do the Dark Brotherhood questline, it will become voided, so I did want to do it now, just in case. And then before making my way up the mountain, I started Klemek's quest to take some supplies up to High Hrothgar. And after doing that, I just swerved right past the Greybeards and made my way into the courtyard, where there are very strong gusts of wind blocking the entrance to the Throat of the World. So to level up Restoration, what I'm going to do is stand in here, and then I would keep casting Fast Healing on myself. I could have also used Lydia, had her wait in there and then use Healing Hands. I found that that was actually slower than just using the healing on myself. But yeah, like most of the other skills, it just took a bit of time, but thanks to the helmet, I never ran out of any magicka, and eventually I'd reached level 100 in the final skill. But we are not done yet. I also wanted every perk, and for that we have to reach a character level of 252. So to get there, I used the Alteration trick, doing this over and over, constantly going back and forth from Riften to Whiterun, which didn't actually take as long as I thought it would. It was under an hour, but I did reach it, putting most of my points into health and stamina, and then still quite a few into magicka. And then obviously going through all the skill trees, unlocking every single perk. So next up was my gear. So for this, I went over to Faendal's little office and drank an Enchanter's Elixir, which I bought from Arcadia. After that, I went into the Enchanting table and made a new set of crafting gear, fortifying both smithing and alchemy. I then went over to the Alchemy table and crafted up smithing potions and enchanting potions, which without some gear from the Dragonborn DLC, this is the highest level potions you can craft without cheating. So once I had a bunch of those, I went back over to the enchanting table. I went ahead and started enchanting some of my actual armor. By the way, for my armor, I chose the Nordic carved set. I always thought it looked pretty cool. And then accompanying that, I had some silver jewelry, including the ring, necklace, and circlet. And for these enchantments, I prioritized two-handed attack damage. A couple pieces also had Fortify Archery, which I may use occasionally if I can't reach whatever I'm fighting, like a dragon or something. And then on top of that, there was a couple of extra utility enchantments, including water breathing, muffle, spell cost reduction on alteration and restoration, and then some fire resistance as well. So when that was all done, I went down to the War Maiden's blacksmith, using the crafting gear and the potion to upgrade all of my armor, alongside the bow and greatsword, boosting my armor rating up to 700 and getting close to 300 weapon damage with my sword. And lastly, I made another set of Nordic carved armor with a shield and sword to give to Lydia, although I didn't enchant any of this. So with that, we were all done. Level 252 character, all skills level 100, and every single perk acquired. Although this is only the start for this series, I reckon next episode I'll probably go into the quest lines of the game, see if I can get all of those done. But until then, I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.